Hello again from Wood Upon the Sea. This is Mark Krug, and we're talking Vacuform models again. Vacuform models, just to refresh real quick, is a model that generally comes on a plate. This is 1/72 scale, so it can handle in one piece. 1/48 scale generally are two, and there could be multiple depending upon the complexity and accuracy of the kit on what it represents. The kit at hand is a Wings 48 model called Kawasaki Ki-10 Perry, the last biplane used by the Japanese in a fighter role between World War I and World War II. So what we're trying to get through is identifying, again, if you have a base plate with pieces on, how do you magically slide these pieces off so you then have pieces that can be put together and now are accurately scaled for the model at hand and can be used. So how do you get these pieces from the plate? So previous video we talked about simply cutting the pieces out, which we've done, and we've got all the pieces on. Now we're talking about how do you remove this base plate. This, if you look at the plastic level here, almost a 1/16 of an inch piece of plastic. That with it, you now have almost an 1/8 of an inch of extra plastic in between, which would throw the entire model off and would render it looking not very good. So what you want to do is, again, remove that, and in some cases, for example, these tail surfaces end up with a surface that's almost knife-like. If you don't think plastic can cut, when you're working with this stuff, you will find out that indeed you can get it that sharp. But I've also taken advantage of the bottom, and I've already sanded this out. So we're going to talk about sanding today. This is a piece of 220 wet dry sandpaper. I did know one person made a comment yesterday about the glare off the glass. I apologize for that. I will tell you, I use the glass for a couple things. One, it's very flat. So when I'm sanding and I want to keep a very flat profile, I can do that. Two is if I drop glue or anything else onto it, it's a simple matter of taking a blade, scraping the glass, and I can clean it all up. And it's just a really good work surface. It doesn't absorb liquids and everything else. So let's go ahead. So what we're going to work on is the left side of the fuselage. Things you need: 220 sandpaper, like I talked about. Depending upon the accuracy and what you're trying to do, there's various flavors you can do this. Water for immersion and to keep things clear. You'll definitely need a few pieces of paper towel to keep the area clean and your fingers clean. And that's about it. It's not a whole lot. I would consider having a good beverage on hand, finding your Zen zone, because all I'm going to do here is I'm going to take and go ahead and just dunk this to put some more on. I apologize for the noise, but essentially, see if I keep it down. But essentially, you're applying even pressure over the model on the sandpaper for the removal of this plate. And every now and then you can check and you can see verily that, yes, plastic is being removed. Am I done yet? Well, you can run a fingernail down. You can hear that there's still a rim. So no, I am not done yet by any stretch. I just started. But given the size of this, you can go swirl, you can go back and forth. You're really just trying to apply even pressure over it. Again, you're trying to wait till that 30 seconds of an inch starts peeling away. From earlier things, you can see here's a piece of trim that you sanded all the way down, and it literally just peeled away and let me know that I was at the right depth. So we're going to go ahead. How long does it take? How thick is your base plate? Is it a hard base plate? Is it a soft base plate? What gradient sandpaper are you using? How energetic? I would caution you against being too energetic. I can look and say, yeah, I still got a place to go, but I'm already with what I've done here. See, I'm not really relying on that. It's almost halfway through. I'm focusing mainly on the forward section now. So not too long. Some good tunes. I generally appreciate viola and violin as a preference. But what you're trying to do is, again, once you have this base plate, this model basically becomes equivalent with an injection molded kit. You've done all the hard work, you know, it's off the plate, the pieces are individualized, and the rest of the construction use the same glues, the same techniques for paint, for priming, for filling gaps. It's all there. So really the only thing on the Vacuform is this: how do you get the pieces off the base plate and available for use? So let's see. Again, you just keep going. I'm going to keep going here. Dunk the tail, clean that off. It's getting very thin, so I know I'm getting close. Got some more water. So when I first got in and thought about Vacuforms, I haven't made too many by any stretch, but there was this whole mystique of people call it the black art. A lot of people, I'm not going to say are afraid, but aren't familiar with it. See, there we go. We already have a piece that came off, so we're getting there. I try to refrain from actually picking the pieces off because, again, you want that entire base plate gone. So by picking it off, you know there's a minute amount of base plate still there, and that could interrupt that when you align these two fuselage halves together. That there could be a little bit of bump. Now, a little variation, that's what you got filler for. See, there's a whole piece right here. So you can see I'm almost done with the front. The bottom is there. So let's just work on this, focus on this, put some extra pressure on this nose section. And there you go, the nose fell off. So here's a nice piece that says the forward edge of this plane. I am now have removed the base plate. Let's get that cleaned off in water a little bit. And you can see now that there is no flinks. If I take my fingernail, it goes straight off because there's no actions whatsoever. You can also see here the back end is coming off. Compare and contrast what I started with and where I am. So it's coming along very quickly. It's not that bad. These bigger pieces where you have a three-dimensional piece, a lot easier. When you have more of, for example, this, I like in this case to hold it on an edge, and you're doing like half at a time to give you a grip and still hold it flat. These take a little more time, and again, I'm only sanding this trim all the way around, right? So that allows it to go faster. When I'm doing something like these tails and a lot of the wings, if they're really thin like these are, not only do I go past, but you'll notice there's no ridge line around the outside. This is totally flat. So I not only went and took that base plate off, you know, but to level this off and get everything done, I was going, so I'm sanding the entire way across, which makes it perfectly flat, and again, allows me to connect and have a very accurate scaled version of the wing. Give that a little rinse. But that's really all. That's it. Let's finish this tail section. So now I'm going to focus on, I was pushing mainly on the back, so I'm using this as a handhold. I'm actually lifting up a little bit because I know the front has completed, and I want the force of the sanding to be in the back. So give this a little rinse off, see how it's going. You can see again I have here, the tail section is still pretty thick. No rush, you're just getting a good rhythm. And again, given it's water sandpaper, with the water, the dust, there's still cleanup, but you don't have dust going everywhere. And so you give it a flick, I'm still going, it's disappearing. But again, you can see with this wing, I mean the tail, why is it taking longer? Well, I've got a much wider surface. I'm now getting to the base plate and where this are, so the expansion of what I'm sanding, the surface area is starting to grow. So, not a bad thing, it's just a thing. So it explains why the back of the plane is taking a little bit more time than what was done on the front. Again, I have just the card. You can see it's still going, and you just keep going on that. So that's it. I will then finish this. One thing to look to the future too is I've gone ahead, I hope these show up, but I've added pencil lines into where the panel lines are. Looking at the plane at an angle, you can barely see them. My concern is once you start applying primer paint, they will totally disappear. If you use reference material like this, you can see the lines that are drawn here. I would like to retain those, and that's my act. The next thing I'm going to talk about how I'm going to inscribe those using a panel scriber in deeper. And then when the plane is, it'll be white with a red stripe. I'm actually going to use a black wash into those things to make those really pop. Growing up, when you look at most models made by kids, if they do paint them, sometimes you get a rattle can. That's pretty extravagant. But you look at it and you go, wait, I can tell it's a model. How can I tell it's a model? Because it's one color, no deviation in color, no deviation in shading, no deviation in anything, and the panel lines and everything else. So this is the technique. You can see here, again, a nice little things that I will then go, once this is done, and clean up all the edges and make sure it's done. But I'm really just aiming on that back section. But I do this with this piece, and then when you put these two pieces together, they should mate perfectly, and then we'll get that colored or glued together. So thank you for joining. That's it. So once these pieces are extracted and you've pulled off the base, you've cut the piece out and then pulled off the base plate, you essentially have the same pieces as if I bought a regular plastic model and I cut this off a sprue. So from now on, everything's normal. There's really nothing to be worried about. There's no other special techniques. Vacuform is simply how do you get these base pieces off the base plate and usable moving forward. So really thank you for stopping by, spending your time, and that's it. Bye.